Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of Life at the Tap End, our podcast series hosted by our Technic. I am joined today by a very special guest. I am not going to take away any of his thunder, as I always say. I like to give the floor over to my guest. So his first name is Chris, and that's all I'm going to give you. So, Chris, over to you, mate. You want to just a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, my name's Chris Flaherty. I run a self-employed, run my own little business, Vietec Heating Limited. I've been in the industry for 40 years. Quite a long time.
You say that with a wry smile on your face.
Oh, yeah, it's a long time,
Yeah.
too long time. So mainly I've been in domestic and commercial, sort of plumbing and heating. I'm gas safe registered, water safe, member of the CIPHE, which I have been since I was 16. So that's about it, really.
So you've been around a bit then. It was safe to
say
you've got
lots of different kinds of projects, been involved in different things. Yeah.
Which I think in our industry is really good. I think to have the experience of people like yourself is a much needed thing within our industry, because I think we went through a point, what was it, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was across the news that plumbers could earn 100 grand a year doing this and this, and there was an influx of, shall we say, unskilled tradesmen trying to take over, and ruin the strong foundations that you guys have put in, really. So I think to have the generations in there, I think is something that's the industry needs it, if that makes sense. I know when I did my apprenticeship, I don't even, not as long as you were, but I think I started my apprenticeship in 2000. I was almost like the last breed of commercial engineers coming through an apprenticeship, because everyone wanted to just be a plumber. No one wanted to be like a heating and ventilation engineer, as we were called at the time. So we seem to be the last generation, but I see that changing again now. I think there's more of a focus on sort of commercial and domestic now in the market, I think, isn't there, Chris?
Yeah, and the skill shortage, I think, has always been there. I think people seem to think there's a problem now. I mean, I done my apprenticeship in the 1980s. When I was at school, I actually wanted to be a bricklayer, and I was getting day release from school. In my last year of school, I was getting day release to Hackney College, and I'd done my first year bricklaying at Hackney College. But when I left, nobody was taking on apprentice bricklayers.
Really?
So I actually become a plumber by chance.
Okay.
I've been to the careers office at school and said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to work outside. I don't want to be in an office. I don't want to be in a factory. So, of course, the first job they offered me for an interview was to go and work in a factory. So I said, no, I don't want that. I just said that. And then a job came up as a plumber's mate with a local company in Battersea where I lived. Went for the interview, thought nothing of it, left. A few days later, about a week later, actually, I said to my mum, never heard from that job. Nothing come back. She said, well, give me a ring. Find out. So I went on, I rang them up. And then she said, oh yeah, I forgot about that. You're the only person who's bothered calling back. Start Monday.
Wow. And that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's how
you must be doing something right then. You must enjoy it somewhere down the line. There's for some joy.
I think once you've got a trade, you've got a trade for life, as they say, isn't it? So it's the only way I'm going to earn a living. It's the only way I can have the lifestyle I've got to earn the kind of same money. So, but there's always ups and downs. I think everyone gets to a stage in their job where they get fed up with it and they dislike it. And sometimes it's days, sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months, where they just had enough or feel like they've had enough. But at the end of the day, you're always going to come back to it. You're never going to not do it.
It's like riding a bike, isn't it? I think once you start to do it, it's something you can always do. And something
you can always do it, but it does have its ups and downs. And, a lot of bureaucracy and stuff in the industry sometimes can get you down and, signing for this and signing for that. And then they keep putting up barriers and making things harder and harder. Well, you feel they do, but you just have to get over it and just deal with it, really. That's what I do. I try not to let things like that bother me no more. Try and ignore it, really, most of the bureaucracy.
Yeah, and it's difficult. And I think the one thing that is evident for all of us that work in the industry, whether it be commercial or domestic, is that the world is changing. Whether it be, like you say, the compliance that we have to make products to, whether it be the bureaucracy that you guys out on the road have to conform to. The world and the market and the industry is a changing thing. We have to. I think we have to put ourselves in a position where we can adapt to that, don't we?
You either move with the times or get left behind. Some of the changes are good. Some of the changes are bad. Mobile phones, they've got benefits. They have a lot of downsides to them. But
it's a 24-hour office, isn't it? A mobile phone, unfortunately. I've got two of them, a personal and a work one, and they never leave your side, do they?
No.
It's one thing, and I suppose the industry changing probably leads us on to something, Chris, I know that you're very passionate is the VDI side of things. So we talk about VDI, is the water treatment. I think knowing your passion for VDI, if I hand over to you, if you explain what VDI is, You know, what is the thought process behind it? What is the driving factor? Where does it come from? You know, is it something we're going to see over here? Is it something we see over here at the moment? You know, I think there may be some people at the moment who don't know what VDI is. So if I hand over to you and you can do a little bit on what VDI is.
Yeah. So the VDI, it's VDI 2035, which is a German standard. So it's written up by the Society of German Engineers, I believe they're called. So that's what the VDI is. You know, the German translation will be the Society of German Engineers. And 2035 is a bit like our BS 7953, etc. So it's just the standard that they do. So that's the standard that the Germans have to follow on the filling of their heating system. So they're not allowed to fill with just raw water, and they don't use chemicals only in exceptional circumstances. So they normally will fill with a conditioned water. So the water normally goes through a filter, which then passes into the heating system. All you're doing is from the mains, goes through the filter into the heating system. And that will normally reduce the conductivity of the water and raise the pH. So once you've got them levels, corrosion is sort of minimized. Without the conductivity, the chemical reaction that can cause corrosion can't happen because you've removed the path that the corrosion can take place. Because all the corrosion is two chemicals reacting with each other, exchanging ions. They exchange ions, and that's what causes the corrosion. So if the path's been taken away by no conductivity, then that reaction can't take place. So that's a simplified sort of term of what it does.
Yeah.
In Germany, that's how they have to fill the systems. They have to protect their systems by sometimes, if it's a problematic system, they'll have to add additional secondary components in the system, water in a optimum condition. But it sort of come over. I mean, I sort of got involved in it about 8 years ago through Peter Greenbank, another sort of heating engineer. He sort of introduced me to it, and we got involved with a company in Germany, and we started using their products and trying to bring their products here into the UK. But being just a small guy that I am, it was for some blokes had it, and some blokes. I set up a training day. That was well attended.
Yeah.
But it was just hard for me to run my own business and try and push this side. So I couldn't really put the sort of effort in that I should have done, maybe, or needed to push the VDI 2035 products into the UK. But fortunately, in 2018, 19, if I remember, LSAT UK came to the country, and they launched, and I was aware of them and I knew their product. And I knew the guy who set it up, the managing director, quite well. So I started using their products and got a bit more involved with them. But because they're a big company and they got more connections and etc., they could push a little bit more for it to be involved. So it's now in City CP1. So
it is. Yeah, it is a CP1.
In there now, it's been mentioned in there. But what we're finding now is a lot of companies now, they're coming to us with, well, me personally, I've had people approach me to come in and clean up really bad problem systems where they've got massive corrosion problems, and they've tried other methods and they just can't see through. So we come in, clean the walls up, put in secondary products to keep the water conditioned, and it works. I mean, that, for me, that's what it is I'm not a salesman, I'm a plumber, but all I want is something that works. And I know firsthand from using the products and using them and seeing what I started with and what I end up with, that it works. And that's all I want. I just want something that works. VDI 2035 methods, they do work.
Yeah. So when we talk, obviously, you said about filling the system with with the compound of the water changing. Is it something that you use for initial fill up and then it becomes a sealed system? Is it something that's continually monitored if it's got an auto top up system? I mean, how is it maintained within the system? So obviously, if we're using chemicals, we talk about 7593. There's a thing about dilution of chemicals, and is it too much? Is it too little? Does it get sort of does it get saturated over time? So how does it work with VDIs? Is it initial fill up? Is it continual or?
Well, it's initial. So initially you're going to treat it. So all it's doing is water's passing through a resin. And again, ion exchanges will happen, salts will be removed. So when the water goes in, there's no salts in there, pH is right. So as long as there's nothing happens with that system, so as long as you've built the system, the expansion vessels are sized correctly, you've got no water losses, you've got no leaks, no oxygen ingress, then really that water will stay as it is. On the sort of larger systems, or if you know there could be problems, then you can add secondary components into the system that will keep the water at that condition, again, through using natural sort of chemical reactions that will happen in the system. So rather than trying to counteract them, which is what chemicals do, they try and create their own solution. all that the VDI 2035 does is let the natural products natural chemical reactions that will happen in the system and use them to their advantage.
Yeah.
Protect the system.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but on a domestic side, like say you're filming initial water, and as long as the system's good, then the only thing you need to care about will be top up. So normally people just open the filling loop and top up. Well, you don't really want raw water being put in. So you can buy quite relatively cheap cartridges, small little portable cartridges that can be connected on that filling loop, and then you just fill through them. So you're still treating the water. So any top up water is also treated.
Okay.
And this is simple.
Yeah, because I know it's something. Obviously, Chris, you and I discussed the conversation prior to this. Is as a manufacturer, we have a set of products which sit in the world of 7593, so filters, inhibitors, all the sort of stuff that's discussed in the chemical world. But obviously, we're now moving certainly from Calefi in Italy. They're sort of bringing out more because they see more of VDI on the continent.
Mm-hmm.
So we now have products and components that are coming over now that which are going to be sort of focused on VDI, which are the resin filters, and all the different bits and bobs that start to try and support, the sort of VDI things. Well, because I mean, Chris, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'm guessing it's going to start to come across the pond at some point. We talk about COVID leaching over to us, but there's also going to be relevant standards, I think, which will start to come over as well. Do you think that will happen?
I think it will, yeah. And I mean, again, that's all that I've ever really tried to push for is just to, again, I'm not against chemicals. I'm not against people using chemicals. Everyone's free to make their own choices based on their own methods and what they see works for them. But it was just to give a fair and a level playing field to allow other alternative methods to protect a heating system from corrosion. So that's all really what I sort of ever wanted. But it's already come over, really. I mean, on the commercial side now, it's massively used. I mean, again, I mostly do go and retrofit into again. At the moment, it's always been problem systems that we get called into. But more and more now, people are starting to buy the products and put them in on new builds straight away because they think I might as well fill with this and put the top ups. Because if you've got the larger commercial systems where you've got pressurization units, there's units that you can connect onto that. Where any water will be automatically treated up, treated before it goes into the system.
Yeah.
And again, with anything, chemicals or any system, it's not fit and forget. So everything's got to be monitored. So when you've got units there that are keeping the water in the optimum condition, you've obviously they normally they'll have a magnesium anode in there.
Yeah.
You need to obviously check. There's normally a meter on the front that'll let you know the condition of the anode. So you need to check that that's stable, and if they need replacement, replace them. With the resin filters for the automatic top ups, again, they will have a life of capacity that they can handle before they're dissipated, and then they'll need replacing. Again, you don't replace the whole unit; you can drain out the resin and replace the resin. So things like that have to be done. So it's not to forget, but the interaction is a lot more simpler. It's not a major chemical or major scientific process to doing it. It's a simple matter of changing anodes, replacing resin, and then just for inspection, normally you're just going to look at a meter. You'll either look at the meter on the front of, just for example, the saw box from LSA, just have a little meter on the front there. I'll tell you the condition of the anodes, and with the compensos, which is the larger units for automatic top-ups. Again, there's a meter on there. It will tell you the volume of water that's passed through it, and depending on the area you are in the country for the hardness of water, you'll know the volume that can pass through it before it's dissipated. So simple little checks, you can go, that's fine, still it's got another 2,000 litres left before it's run out. Simple things rather than and again, these are things you can get a customer to even press a button or look at and go, yeah, it's saying this, or take a photograph of it and send it to you. But with the chemical side, you can't really get your customer to take a sample and test it. You have to go there and do it. So it's something that always involves you. So for me, it's less work. It's easier.
And I know the ones that I've seen that have come over from Calefi. They have got like the resin filters, and they've got the little counter on top. So you got your little digital screen that will tell you the life of the resin, the content, all that sort of stuff, which just pushed through. So I suppose in that respect, I know that in the recent edition of 7593, there's a big push for these, say, universal inhibitor tests. The full flush and drain throughs every periods of time, etc. So, I think we're all realizing now, as people who write the standards or as manufacturers, that we have to maintain this. Is like you say, they're not just forget and forget. No matter what it's really installed, everything needs maintaining to a degree, doesn't it? I suppose the easier we can make that for, for end users or engineers is going to be better. And I guess the education side of it, the more that VDI becomes more you know, in the spotlight, I guess we'll be able to bring more of that sort of understanding around to what it is really. Because I know 2 years ago I didn't even know what VDI was, didn't even know it existed. But you know, sort of I know more of it now, you know, sort of following some of the stuff that you do and some of the standards that we have to work on with Italy, you know, we kind of get that, you know, get that understanding. So I think it's really good actually. And I really appreciate you giving your knowledge and your insight into VDI, because, you know, I think it's going to be beneficial for a lot of people who listen to this and understanding what it is. So I really appreciate it. Now, another side of what you do, Chris, and I know this from following you on various platforms, obviously, and conversation, is that you're starting to look at a world of a little bit. I always call it offsite manufacturing, because that's my background from when I was on the tools. I worked in offsite manufacturing, but I know it's something that sort of you're working down the route of now, isn't it? So, what's your thoughts? What are your views on the offsite manufacturing side of things?
Yeah. I mean, I love doing it. It's the best things about it. I mean, I'm just doing it for another company called Solaris Energy Limited. So they're a heat pump company. They do a lot of commercial systems. So I subcontract to him, and I build the systems in his warehouse. So the benefit is as we're building, as it happens on any site, you know, you can make as many joints as you want, but there's always going to be fittings that you'll need additional, or you might have to make a change when you're actually installing it. So it allows us the flexibility to be on building the warehouse. We can overcome the problems. If we lose a day, so we'll go, well, we can't do that now because we need to order a special fitting in. It allows us to do that so that when it's built and we disassemble it, it goes to site. On site, it's a quick, smooth operation. We go in, put it on the wall, make the connections, and then fill it up, and then we're done. You know, we're finished. So the normal problems that happens when you're constructing the system, like I say, running out of fittings possibly, or any sort of problems you come across, you think, I can't do this now, I've got to do it this way.
Yeah.
Rather than that happening on site. And the best thing was, because we do big systems and we work all over the country, or, you know, he does them all over the country. So rather than working away for 2-3 weeks, we're only away for a few days or a week at the most.
Yeah.
Because we built it in our sort of home county where we live.
Yeah.
And we can travel and just spend a shorter time on site. So cost-wise, it's certainly not cheaper, but it's just on site. You're just for the customers. You're not there long. You're in.
Yeah, reducing the time.
Yeah, you're reducing the time on site a lot better, and you've got the system in and operational.
Yeah.
In their eyes, a lot quicker. They don't see this side of you building it away. So
Yeah.
when you come in, and if it's all project managed in, when you come in, do your bit, and you're gone. And for sites to run quicker and sort of to timetables, it's a lot better.
Yeah. I know one of the things that, because obviously I said to you, that's my background. I worked for the company, the first ever to start to build offsite plant rooms. We used them for all sorts, gas transition sites, you know, sort of the cooling centers for data centers, etc. And it was, you know, we had a site side of work as well. I remember when you ever work on that side, you could guarantee you'd be on the 24th floor of a building in London. You got to get your transformers up there, your screw machines, you got to get all your tools, you know, all that sort of stuff, because you're building it on site. Whereas, you know, when we used to do it in the warehouse or in the factory, we had a footprint. It was a steel erected structure that we used to clad and put doors and stuff. But you had your boundaries to work within. Do you know what I mean? So I guess as you offsite manufacturer, what do you set yourself a blueprint or a footprint that you've got to build to, and then like a virtual room essentially, and then fit it around that?
I mean, that's what it is. He'll either have he's either the guy would he'll go to site, he'd take up full measurements of everything. So we either have the full plant room layout, and then we'll have a plan. So then we mark it out in the warehouse, and we'll put Unistrut on the floor, etc. So the boundaries and the areas that we can put our system in. Or he'll have special jigs made, and then we build on them jigs, and then them jigs will get taken to site and then put into place within the plant room, and then we just link them together on site. But so it's just all based on plans. You'll always know the area you've got, and you just work within that.
Yeah, and I think it's something certainly, I only recently, I've sort of introduced myself as onto the world of like sort of Twitter and some of the different platforms where, people share their work, and it's fantastic to see all the different work that people do. And some people will show you like lovely installs they've done inside someone's airing cupboard, but I am starting to see now a lot more people pre-plumbing stuff, even if it's taking a boiler and fitting the filters, the aerators, and all the connections on the bottom prior it going to site, because like you say, it does reduce that time. And I think when you've got everything around you, I guess you've got a workbench, you've got your tools, you've got everything that's reachable. But if you're in someone's house or in an office box, I've just left that in the van. You're going, got to walk down 3 flights of stairs back to your van, and it's not de-skilling anything. I think it's just moving the operation to a different location, isn't it? If you
And
know
it
what I mean.
benefits the customer because, like you say, you're not there with 2 tons of tools and noisy
Yeah,
room machines. The less you can bring into site, like I say, the better for you, the better for them.
yeah,
I think it's definitely the way forward. And especially,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I've seen a few posts where people have really sort of tight cupboards, and especially with heat pumps and that. So the more you can prefabricate that off site and then just shift in a jig and just push it into the cupboard and make the connections,
yeah,
and all the sort of complicated, awkward little tight bits are done. That's just again going to benefit the customer, benefit you on site because you've done
hmm,
it a way where you can get around all the awkward bits and sort out the problems how to do them.
yeah.
It's
And I
definitely.
think you see a lot of, so for instance, some of the sort of like commercial boiler manufacturers now, you see these, what I call them MBS systems, so modular boiler systems, where you basically got an L-shaped frame, the boiler's already hung, you've got your flow return header, a gas header, and they just module them into a plant room, don't they? So
Yeah.
that's all built, and then it's just bolted together with the flanges or whatever else it may be, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself a system that was built, in a factory elsewhere that you've just
Just a
put together.
prefab on the site, yeah, exactly. And again, I think that's the way it's going with. Yeah, like I say, I think you can make things a bit easier for domestic side. You can add
Mm.
components already onto the boiler, like you say.
Yeah.
Like commercial and that, I think that building as much as you can off-site is
Hmm.
become a much bigger thing. Like I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
our plants we build the expansion vessels sometimes on frames of pressurization unit. If we're doing like the LS80 units, they'll get put onto the frames. So when we bring it to site, it just makes life easier, quicker for the
Yeah.
user. But like I say, time-wise, you're probably spending the same time building it because people have asked me, they said, "Oh, is it quicker?" Well, the build isn't quicker, but your time on site is a lot quicker. So for the customer,
Yeah.
it looks good. You're in and out, and if you're working away, it's less time you're spending in hotels and the additional costs with working away. That's
Yeah.
a lot as well.
Yeah, which I think is important, in this day and age, with especially now where it's going to be even more difficult to travel around, certainly, for a few more months at least, and all this offsite stuff is only going to add a benefit. And I always found it a cleaner, better environment to work in because you're not trying to climb over other tradesmen and, you're not trying to do this and that. And, it was just an easy environment for me to work in. But I worked in both, so, I'm not. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I saw it from both sides, but certainly the offsite side of it was a lot easier.
I think it's
Um,
going to get bigger. It's definitely going to be a big.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I started many years ago for a company called Plant Energy Systems, which was then taken over by Armstrong Pumps, the North American company, and they grew it to a huge scale. But there was also other massive companies like Constant Air and other ones that were starting to do this. And now I see more and more now with the pre-packaged stuff. It's just what people want. Like I say, people don't want 15 vans on site and 30 blokes and whatever else. They want a wagon to come along, drop it into place,
Yeah.
connect it up, and away you go, isn't it? And I understand in the domestic world, every property is different, so it's not, you can't pre-plumb a whole house,
No.
in a workshop, can you? But you can certainly, I think, do some of the.
And if you've got plant rooms, once you get plant rooms, and again, I think with the heat pumps coming in, more and more even domestic houses are going to have some form of plant room. It may
Yeah,
not be massive, but so again, that allows you to build off site. And once you've got a plant
yeah,
room, once the doors are accessible, you can get the equipment in.
yeah,
And again, you're just going to save time on site. And
yeah,
the system up and operational for, again, if they've got an existing heating system running, they want to swap to a heat pump and then
yeah,
had a plant room built, you can come in, put that in, make the connections and get it up and running quickly for them.
yeah, yeah.
Swap over is quick, then that's the benefit.
Yeah, I mean, we see it here. We have an assembly plant here in Stafford, and where we pre-plumb probably, I don't know, 80% of for the cylinder manufacturers they go out. So we just send out a pre-plumb cylinder.
Yeah.
So it's got the inlet group in it, it's got all the valves and everything, the pipework connected to the cylinder, and you just got to take it, and the plumber does the final connection. So it is. We are trying to do it at component level as well. I think as best we can to make the life easy. Now you've touched on heat pumps a little bit there, and we haven't got much time left, but obviously that world is changing. I got involved with a company based down in Devon, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, who build sort of prefabricated houses, actually, Hans houses and stuff, big German ones. And the first one we went, that had a plant room in the house, and I've been in some nice properties before, but to go into a room, you basically got this beautifully engineered sort of plant room, and you've got your heat pumps, and they've got the horizontal cylinders in there and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, you're doing a lot on heat pumps now. Is that the way you see? I know there's a lot of confusion or a lot of talk around the green home scheme, but
well, that's which is gone. But there is a lot of confusion because again, on one side you hear it where people are saying that heat pumps now are the future and blah blah. And I agree, they're going to be used. They're out there. They've been installed already. So I think it's important that installers start learning that side, or they're going to get left behind. But then also we hear about hydrogen. So you could have both, but because no one knows, no one wants to spend all their time concentrating on one thing and paying out and learning all that, and then all of a sudden they go, well, no, we're going to do this as well, and no one knows about that side. So
Yeah.
at the moment, yeah, it's still a bit up in air. That's why I think at the moment, like, a lot of installers aren't really picking and choosing it. They're just sticking with what they know and what they do, which is gas.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of the issue around the green homes was the installer base.
Yeah.
You know, there was not the installer base of MCS accredited, whatever it may be, engineers to actually go out and fit the systems. Do you know what I
No,
mean? So it's all right saying we'll give you 10 grand to go and put a heat pump in, but you've got nobody to fit it.
again, yeah, there's not enough blokes doing it because again, they're not going to invest in time and energy to set themselves up to learn about heat pumps and all the jumping for the hoops for MCS and all that. For then not much work to come in when they've got plenty of work coming in from gas, what they do all the time. So until that big change comes, or there's some massive incentive to make installers,
change over.
Then it's it's going to be a very slow process. Yeah.
And I guess the thing is, from an up and coming engineer side of it as well, if you've got what is a very established gas market at the moment, or you've got the option to become a gas safe engineer or become an MCS accredited installer of heat pumps, which is still a bit of I don't say a grey area, but it's an emerging market, but it's still an unknown market. Which way are you going to go? You know, are you going to stick with where you know there's a market for them in? Okay, yes, they're going to remove gas boilers at some point, but like you say, hydrogen's going to come in. There's no real clear path for people to go down, is there, I don't think, at the moment.
And that's why no installers that's why they have this problem with where they
Yeah.
say, oh, there's a lack of installers. There's not really a lack. It's just the installers are not made, they're not going to invest to make a change at their cost for possibly no benefit. So until things radically change, and there is a big change, then I think they're always going to struggle to find it.
Yeah.
And actually, to get to the capacity they're saying they want, which is 600,000 heat pumps a year,
that's
well, that's going to be difficult to do with the amount of people they've got to do it.
With 3 installers.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're going to be busy people, aren't they?
They will be, yes.
Yeah, and I think I think if you're a big M&E contractor, so we say, or an outfitter, you've got the ability. If you've got 20 fitters, you can put 5 of them for MCS and still keep 15 doing what they should be doing. And you've got that flexibility, but that then becomes an commitment from the company to put their time aside to do it, and then it is a real difficult juggling act to play at the minute, I think.
And so for sole traders, it's
sole traders, it's exactly, and I do, I sympathise that. And like I say, we are seen as a manufacturer, certainly to OEMs. The heat pump market is taking off. We do heat pump kits or sort of individual components for heat pumps now, and it is something that we've seen a complete, sort of take off on. But I think there's still a long way to go, when it comes to where we are with that, really. But we'll see on that one. Well, Chris, we've gone for half an hour, whether you believe it or not.
Okay.
I do really appreciate you taking the time to, to sit and talk to. I think it's been a real great insight, certainly into the VDI side of things. It's certainly something I'm not mastered up to speed on. I should be. I probably need to be. Maybe have a conversation outside of this.
It's going to grow and more. It's going to get mentioned more and more people learn about it. There's a lot more to it, but I think they just need to know a few of the basics just to.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like you say, the conversations and offsite manufacturing, and everything else. I think it's a really valuable insight from someone like yourself who sits in a domestic and, a light commercial, semi-commercial world to show how, there is a changing world out there. We all, there are people stuck in their ways. I understand that, and there's a marketplace for that, but there's also an ever-evolving market out there, isn't there? If you know what I mean. So I think we have to adjust that. So, Chris, again, I know your time is precious. I know it's taken us 3 months to arrange this date and whatever. I was trying to fit in everything that we've been doing, but I do appreciate it. I think it's something I'd probably like to do again at some point. Maybe in 6 months' time when we're a bit clearer as to where the marketplace has gone. But it's been really good. So I really appreciate your time on that one.
Yeah, no problem. Been a pleasure.